Counting calories should work. Track your food, you create a deficit, you lose fat, right? And it does at first. But here's the truth. Most people who lose weight by counting calories and tracking macros gain the weight back unless they learn how to not track macros by tracking macros. My name is Cody McBroom. I'm the founder and CEO of Tailored Coaching Method, a world-renowned 7-figure online fitness and nutrition coaching company that specializes in helping average people adhere to the plan and achieve above average physiques and live above average lives. And in this video, I am going to show you the real reason why counting calories fails for most people who are looking to lose fat through a diet approach. And I'll do so by showing you this simple mindset shift that all of our clients must experience in order to create lasting change. I'm also going to give you the 4-pillar system that we have used with hundreds and hundreds of online coaching clients to get long-lasting results without obsessing over every macro and every bite of food. What we've taught clients to understand is that if they build true awareness of their dietary choices and patterns, accept what isn't helping them, and that they need to begin leaning on logic versus leaning on their emotions, and then adjust their routines and lifestyle behaviors to accommodate and complement their goals rather than getting in the way of them reaching their goals, they will accelerate towards their goals faster than ever before, which also inevitably increases their intrinsic motivation, leading to higher levels of adherence and consistency. And this is without needing to lean and rely on self-discipline to carry them from start to finish during their fat loss journey. And this is the 4-pillar system: awareness, acceptance, adjustments, and then acceleration. First, we build their awareness, which does require them to measure their food and track their calories and macros, which for some online coaches is like pulling teeth. But for us, it's never an issue and doesn't ever stop somebody from committing to the process of tracking macros in the early stages or working with us as their preferred coach. But more on how you're gonna get your clients buy-in to actually track and measure all their food later in pillar number 2. So to put this simply, if we don't accurately measure and track their food, we cannot accurately determine what's being consumed or where their energy balance actually is, which is an obvious and science-backed requirement for fat loss. However, the big problem here is that they haven't been able to actually determine what their calorie intake is, which leads most of these clients before landing on a good coach attempting to lose weight and getting frustrated because they feel like their metabolism is broken or that their body is fighting against them, both of which could not be further from the truth 99.9% of the time. See, they try to diet and they eat pretty clean most of the time, and they likely even go to the gym every single week, but they are not losing weight, which makes the process of getting leaner feel daunting, frustrating, confusing, overwhelming, and every other ing that screws with their head and causes them to doubt their ability to actually lose the weight over the long haul. Which is why, as a coach, it is our job to show them how to measure accurately, how to track macros correctly, and where to source their foods from so that they can do both of these things with precision consistently. And as we do these things the right way, they become more and more aware of what they are really eating and how many calories they are actually consuming on a daily basis. This is eye-opening for them because 80% or more of the time, they are consuming far more than they realized. And when the awareness of this really settles in, we begin to break down their barriers and they begin to have more faith in the process we are about to guide them through. Now, it's also very important to note that just because they're tracking their food doesn't automatically mean they understand all of their behaviors and habits, because most people just input numbers. They don't sit around and ask themselves on a regular basis, why did I eat this? What do my cravings actually mean? What do I need for my body versus what do I want in this moment? Are there any patterns that keep showing up in my diet? See, data without awareness is just noise. And it's our job as coaches to ask them those questions as they track and measure to help them gain more clarity and a greater amount of awareness. And once they do, we move into the second pillar, which is acceptance. And what that means is they have to begin accepting everything that they're seeing and what they are learning through this coaching process, which I'll admit, when saying out loud, it sounds kind of harsh and it might be daunting for coaches to hear that and think about how they're going to call their client out to get them to accept what they're seeing, especially because as coaches, we care and we don't want to make them feel like crap. But It's all about how you frame it. And your job as a coach is to create the best frame possible for nearly every conversation so that you can move your client in the right direction. And we like to frame this part of the process to our clients like they are about to open a door that puts them on a path leading directly to the goal that they have been aimlessly trying to accomplish for a very long time. And yeah, sometimes they feel like they've been wasting time until they found this process with us. And that kind of sucks. But we're not going to let them harp on that. Because the reality is now they don't have to waste any more time because we are here for them and we are literally walking them through the door and on the path step by step. And it's the way that we frame this that allows us to get total buy-in from every single client. Even if they literally tell us, I don't want to track macros, or I've done that before and it didn't work for me. Because when we run into this during the onboarding process, we just ask them this simple question. If I was able to prove to you that it wasn't what you did that didn't work for you last time, but how you were taught to do it that caused you to fail, and then if done properly, which will absolutely happen with us by your side, it's going to guarantee that you reach your ultimate goal. And finally, I'll just note that you won't have to do this tracking thing forever. This is just a temporary tool that helps you achieve your ultimate goal. So would you be open to hearing me out and considering this whole tracking thing just one more time? See, framing the journey this way or in a way similar to this will gain their attention, increase their beliefs in your ability to help them, and establish a new level of expertise within you due to the certainty you have in your systems, which of course should only be the case if you actually have certainty in the systems you're using. But nonetheless, this is step one of the client acceptance pillar. And the steps that follow will come along as they gain more and more awareness of the key indicators we are finding within their diet, training, lifestyle, and everything that is going to impact both positively and negatively their fat loss results, which happens as they get deeper and deeper into that first pillar of awareness. And this can look like you helping them become more aware of their environment, their habits, their routines, their stress levels, their sleep, their workspace, their social life. Again, anything and everything that impacts the progress they are making towards the ultimate goal they set. And from there, you will help them establish better habits and routines while creating boundaries and systems that act like bumpers on their lane towards, again, that ultimate goal they set. And I want to point out a very big key term here. You will help them establish these habits and routines and boundaries. Because when it's them making the decision, subconsciously, this is what allows them to truly create the change and stick with the change. Because that's a commitment they are making themselves, not an order they are following from a superior. And now comes the easier part. Pillar number 3, which is adjustments. And the big problem here is that this is actually where most online coaches start. They use an online calculator to find somebody's maintenance calorie intake instead of spending the time teaching them how to track and using real weigh-ins and a real food log to establish where their current maintenance intake actually is at, and then simply comparing that to a calculation, because this allows them to show their client the gap of where they are and where they should be in regards to a healthy maintenance level intake. But then they create a deficit off of their calculation they used an online calculator to find, which is often too small of an adjustment anyway, because the most common calorie deficit that online coaches put their clients in due to fear of creating a big change or pushing them too hard is a 5, maybe a 10% calorie deficit, even though almost all weight loss research shows them using at least a 20%, usually a 25% or more calorie deficit on the participants in these weight loss studies, because it ensures that it pushes these individuals beyond their maintenance range and into an actual deficit that causes weight loss results to happen. However, most coaches online also forget that maintenance is not a dead set target. So even though you used a calculator and it told you 2,000 calories, maintenance isn't 2,000 calories. It's a moving target. It's a range. It could be a little below that. It could be a little bit above that. On a random occasion, it might be exactly that. But the problem is most online coaches rely on formulas and calculations instead of coaching skills and actual science. And finally, these online coaches usually make these generic suggestions about adjusting the diet or lifestyle in order to adhere to the new calorie intake, which is a calorie deficit, and the new macro targets that they set for the client. But ultimately, that usually fails, simply because they skipped pillar number 1 and pillar number 2. And that's because both those pillars help us learn about the individual we're working with and teaches them the awareness needed in order to actually make that change we're asking them to make. Now, if you're paying attention and you're planning on following these pillars in your coaching practice based on how they are intended to be implemented throughout the client journey, then you're likely asking, okay, so what adjustments should I make? And I'd answer that by saying, sorry, but I'm not going to answer that in this video. Because the truth is, it depends. And I hate that cop-out of an answer, but it really does depend on the person, and specifically what was discovered in that first awareness pillar phase and what was determined in that second pillar acceptance phase. So for now, just remember, change requires change. So if you want your clients to get results, you need to guide them properly. And then you do need to create a significant change to their plan in order for them to start seeing serious progress and for that progress to be seen consistently over time. And finally, we have pillar number 4, accelerate. But honestly, if you got to this point in the coaching process with a client, they are already accelerating. And to be honest, we find that our clients start seeing that accelerated progress while still working on pillar number 1, because they are consciously improving their lifestyle and their habits through the act of becoming more aware, which is something they've probably never done, or at least never done at this level before in their lives. And that progress doubles down and accelerates even more with every single step and every single pillar. So really this pillar number 4 of acceleration, is less of a pillar and really more of a checkpoint, because it allows you to stop, assess, and review to make sure that you are indeed coaching your client effectively and that your client is getting the results that they hired you to get. And while you are here in this pillar, in this phase, reviewing these things, it's very important that you spend time pointing out these wins to them as well, because just like you, they are their own biggest and worst critic. So it's important for you to acknowledge how great they are doing and encourage them to acknowledge it as well. And so, if counting calories and tracking macros hasn't worked for you or isn't working for your clients, I'd have you consider that it's not the math or the numbers, and it's definitely not that the principle of energy balance and thermodynamics is a lie. It's likely the mindset, the structure, and the overall awareness that's missing and causing this to not work for you. Because counting calories and tracking macros absolutely works, and it works really well, but only when you do it this way. And you can easily do it this way by following these 4 pillars. And if you were a coach or somebody who's serious about getting results that actually last, first of all, thank you for watching this, and I hope it was valuable to you. And if you could do me a favor, hit the like button, drop a comment below, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I post real strategies for real people who are working hard to create real change for good.